For all your TCG needs, make sure to check out alphatradingcardgames.com. What's poppin', everybody? This is Sabro94. I'm going to be discussing Pokemon Ranger a little bit today as part of a bigger subject of luxury cards and tech cards. Now you may be wondering what I mean by luxury cards, and we'll get to that. But first of all, I'm going to be breaking down trainer cards into two different categories. Now, I'm sure players would categorize trainer cards in all sorts of ways, but for the purposes of this video and to keep things simple, I'm going to split them into cards for consistency and cards that are techs. Now, what is the definition of a consistency card? Consistency cards are basically cards that let you search and draw cards, helping you set up and helping you get what you need for the purposes of your deck. In Pokemon, it usually means searching out the Pokemon that you want, the evolution pieces, perhaps energies, and maybe some specific tool cards or a stadium card. Now, ever since they were created, supporter cards have always been associated with consistency. They've always been the main core, or at least one of your main cores, for drawing and searching cards. Big aspect of the TCG, you can only play one per turn, so this is why they have stronger effects than your typical item cards. So for example, cards like Acrobike, Trekking Shoes, or the Judge Whistle are only going to let you draw one card. A supporter card is going to let you draw more cards. 3 cards, maybe shuffle and draw effect, a heavy duty discard and draw effect like Juniper, so on and so forth. Same with searching. A lot of the ball cards like Level Ball, Ultra Ball, Great Ball, they're going to fetch you one Pokemon and they have other conditions. But a supporter card can let you grab 2 or 3 Pokemon given the supporter card. So that establishes the consistency aspect. We also have, however, supporter cards that don't let you draw or grab cards, but give you powerful disruption effects that are going to affect the game state and give you some sort of different advantage. And this is where the luxury aspect comes in. So in general, you have disruption cards in the form of items and supporters, but it's easier to integrate item tech cards because you can play as many of them as you want. Supporter card is once per turn, so the one that you play matters. Typically, a deck is going to have its consistency core, the cards that are going to help you get your other cards that you need. And depending on the space you have in the deck, you're going to include a few techs. The techs people run are influenced by the meta, maybe their preference. And there's a few techs like Switch and maybe Field Blower that have so many implications that are pretty common and easy to just throw in the deck if you have the space. If you don't have the space, however, these are the types of cards I would consider luxury cards. And this is where we get into Pokemon Ranger. So I can remember at least maybe 3 occasions of commenters asking me for why I'm not running Pokemon Ranger, or maybe I should consider running Pokemon Ranger, because everyone knows how much I hate Arceus Dialga Palkia GX. And my philosophy has always been this. Pokemon Ranger is the true definition of a luxury card. The effect of the supporter is remove all effects of attacks on each player and his or her Pokemon. So basically what you can do with this card is you can negate Arceus Dialga Palkia GX's GX attack, which is the biggest thing this card does. You could negate in the past things like Shadow Stitching from Greninja, a bunch of other things you can do. But for the most part, when this card was released in Steam Siege, they kind of made it, I guess, so you could use it with the Volcanion EX because it had an attack where it wasn't going to be able to attack on the next turn. But it didn't see widespread play compared to another supporter that I'm going to touch on pretty soon, Boss's Orders or Guzma, for a lot of different reasons. This is a very specific effect, and it doesn't have the many flexible uses of a different tech card like Boss's Orders or Guzma, which one can also consider luxury cards, but their types of effects cover so much more ground compared to something like Pokemon Ranger. So, when you're running a very inconsistent deck, a tier 3 deck, a deck that doesn't have access to most of its cards at any time, having a card like Pokemon Ranger, which is so situational, is more of a liability than help. We gotta keep it 1,000. If it wasn't for Arceus Dialga Palkia GX, which in my opinion should be banned by now, would people even spend a spot in their deck to run this card, just in the off chance, oh, I can use it in this situation? It's just too situational. The bigger thing to take away from this is exactly how broken Dialga Palkia Arceus GX is with that GX attack. so broken that people are willing to run a very specific tech like Pokemon Ranger to stop it, to hopefully stop it. Because if you can't stop it from the first turn, Arceus attacks, then you might as well have never even had this card in the first place. This is another thing, and I'm going to get into Boss's orders and Guzma pretty soon. If you don't have this at the correct time, like immediately after Arceus Dialga-Palkia GX uses that GX attack, and they get at least one attack off and they get the extra prizes, then it's not really going to help you almost at all. So 90% of the reason you're running this card is for Arceus, and then you gotta make sure you can dig it out or have it at the right time to use it. It's gonna take up your supporter for the turn, and it doesn't even let you draw one or two cards. If it was an item, then yeah, it would have been much easier to throw in decks, just like Field Blower, just like a Switch, because it's just an item. Now you compare this to Boss's orders and all the stuff that card can do when you pull an opponent's Pokemon. That card can be good early game, mid game, late game to kill a specific Pokemon, bypass your opponent's active Pokemon and kill a weaker Pokemon to get the last one or two prizes. You know, the typical pulling a support Pokemon like Crobat or Dedenne GX. You can attempt to get something stuck to buy some time. You can kill a combo Pokemon or an ability draw Pokemon. There's so many situations where Boss's orders and even Guzma giving you the chance to switch as well, and act like a switching card too. It's not a coincidence that kind of card, Lysander when it first came out in Flashfire, those iterations have been seen more widespread play. So to sum up, when people ask me why aren't you running Pokemon Ranger to tackle Arceus Dialga-Palkia GX, the answer is simple. The card would do more harm than good in my Tier 2 and Tier 3 decks like Emboar decks and Dark Box decks and Duraludon Bronzong decks and whatever example you can think of. Naganadel Guzzlord with Staccatica GX, that deck that I use a lot. There isn't an easy way to include a card like this and make sure I'm gonna have it if I play against Arceus and I can use it immediately. Like you would need to have at least some sort of Tapu Lele GX engine with 50 million balls to search Tapu Lele so that you know that you can use it guaranteed when that opportunity comes. And if you want an extra reason, a more ridiculous reason, it's also the issue of my stubbornness. I just refuse to run a very specific card that doesn't give me a lot of edge when I look at it, doesn't have all the implications of a different tech supporter like Boss's orders, running this just for Arceus Dialga-Palkia GX where I want that card to get banned. That card should be banned. It is absolutely ridiculous that we even need to be forced to having to run a card like this just to beat Arceus. I mean, there's been broken Pokemon in the past, like a Garchomp Sea-Level X, and people were running techs to kill that guy in one shot, and Luxray and what have you, but it was never like completely mandatory. Like you could beat a deck like that even if you didn't have like a Garchomp or Luxray counter. But Arceus Dialga-Palkia GX is so broken that if you don't negate the GX attack or stop it somehow, then it's just going to finish you off in a few turns. If it's paired up with something like Dragonite and you don't have huge ass Pokemon to survive and then heal. And actually, fuck that, that's wrong. Because even if you do have the Pokemon to be able to stand up to Arceus and Dragonite, all they gotta do is just pick on your Crobat, your Dedenne, just pick on two of those Pokemon, 2 turns, 2 attacks, that's game. 3 prizes on each. That's how crazy that card is. It seriously makes the Luxchamp deck look like it was trash. At least that deck, even if it was gonna get a prize on your small Pokemon turn after turn, they did have to get like 6 attacks to win, not 2. But anyway, I digress. These are my thoughts. You guys can tell me in the comments if you agree, if you disagree. Thank you guys for watching the video. Subscribe to the channel, leave a like, share this video with your friends, and I'll see you guys next time. What a